All right. So here's a picture of where I hiked today. Off to the left, the highest peak is Mount Marcy. And then directly in front of us is Colden. Then off to the right of that, you can see Wright Peak, which is where I was. And then just behind it is Algonquin with a lot of snow on it. And then we have Indian Pass a little bit further over. So just a great view from the access road to the Heart Lake. Hey, good morning. It's Tuesday, April 5th, 2022 here. I'm in the high peaks of the Adirondacks getting ready to go on a little hike. I'm actually in the parking lot right now for Heart Lake. This is the main parking lot. During the summer, this is absolutely packed. There are well over 200 parking spots in this lot. It can get so busy, so crazy, that cars even line up on the road because there's not enough parking spots for everyone. They can line up for like an entire mile. But here, early April, it's not really busy at all. As you can see, there's lots of spots. There are a few cars. Over here is the High Peaks Information Center. There's restrooms. There's like a lodge. I don't think they're open right now. They even have a little hiking bar there. My plan for this morning is to hike Wright Peak, which is one of the Adirondack 46ers. There are 46 peaks in the Adirondacks that are over 4,000 feet, and it's a great thing. It's just wonderful natural environment to go hiking in. So today, normally the best time to do these types of trails are May through October. Being April, this is not the most ideal, and part of the reason is you can almost see here there's an awful lot of ice, and at this point in the parking lot, the ice is kind of soft and it's not that difficult to walk on. As I climb higher and higher today, there's going to be much more treacherous ice. So I did come equipped. I've got micro spikes for my shoes. I'll put them on later, and also have my poles here to help. This is the sign-in area where you're supposed to, if you've got 8 inches of more snow, you're supposed to use skis or snowshoes. Wow. But we don't have that much today. There is, like I say, a nice map of where we're going. Let's see. Right here is the Heart Lake, which is where we have a campground. And I'm just going to do a short trail going up along McIntyre Creek, eventually going to Wright Peak, 4,580 feet. So this elevation here is just about 2,200 feet. So I'm going to be climbing roughly 2,200 feet. There's a sign-in log that I'm doing, and just got to find out who's, let's see. We got a lot of people that signed in. So yeah, someone signed in today, April 5th. 2 cross. I'll just put down Mexico. That always throws people. 315. I put down my home number. 678 1 1 W. I see we've got a couple people signed in today already to go Marcy, another person going Algonquin, Iroquois, and Wright, which is a very ambitious hike. I'm not anywhere near as ambitious today, but the Wright Peak, it's about a 7-mile hike round trip. Oh, almost forgot my poles, so I have to go back and get those. It usually takes about 4.5 hours round trip, and Today I don't think will be much of an exception. It's probably going to be a little bit longer. It is quite icy, and I'm definitely going to have to put on my micro spikes to safely traverse this trail. The real hazard today is sliding or slipping and getting hurt. That can, particularly so in my age, I don't bounce anymore, and I don't heal very fast. So I do have to be extra cautious. And again, that's why I have poles. And I'm thinking I'm gonna just put my micro spikes on. There's a little water on the trail, which of course makes the ice even slicker. So maybe I'll do that right now. Put on my micro spikes. Just take a little break here. I can say I'm only a short way down the trail. I got them right in my bag. It should be. Yes, here they are. Here are the micro spikes. Oh, put my, just get them on my shoes. Let's see if we can, see how this works. Yeah, I guess I can show everyone how they go. There's a thing that says front. They just slip right over there, and then get my other shoe. There, so there you go, micro spikes. Great, a great invention. And I have my pack here. Of course, you probably can't see my pack anymore. So, I'll get back here. Yeah, good deal. So, micro spikes. Oh yeah. This is the thing for today. It's going to be micro spikes, I'm sure, all the way. Of course, there are rocks still, and they can do a job on micro spikes. So I have to be careful not to step on the rocks too hard. But so that's, at least that's the start of the trip here. I'll have another segment later. Like I said, I'm doing Wright Peak. A lot of people don't know who Mr. Wright was, or Mrs. Wright, I guess. There was a couple, but I did do some research. I looked up Silas Wright, found out a little bit about him, and a little bit later, when I get on the trail further, I'll share more about that. Right now, there's a sign coming up. You can see. See, we don't have all ice. There is some mud here. That's good. But again, this is normally a ski trail. Snowshoes were in season. Season's long gone, this being April. But like I said, this is what some people call the mud season, because there can be a lot of mud too. All right. We'll catch up later. All right, so I've been hiking for a while, enough so that I've actually warmed up and took my jacket off. It's quite a bit higher elevation here. There's a lot more snow in the fields, out in the woods. I mean, the trails are almost exclusively snow-packed, which is fine with my micro spikes. And it's just a great day. There really isn't much wind to be concerned with. So I'm gonna switch the camera here. There's several different modes, and I'm going into what's called first person. All right, so this is a mode of the camera where it actually follows you as you travel. It's good if you're in a car or like on a roller coaster. So I'm just kind of curious to see how it works here on the trail as I climb up. We do have trail markers. See if I can show one there. It's one of our trail markers. So you can see the few rocks still. Not much mud. If there was any type of melting, it's largely frozen. So, good day for hiking if you have the right tools, micro spikes, and the poles. Just go up a little bit more on the trail. A little bit about Wright Peak. It's famous not just for Silas Wright, who was named after, but January 1962 was a fateful month because there was a military jet. It was a B-47. B-47 is no longer in production, but it was, at the time, it was probably the largest military jet that there was. It had 6 engines. It was really built for bombing. It could fly very high altitude, easily like 50,000 feet. On this fateful day, though, they were flying out of Watertown, supposed to be on a training mission, a low-level training mission. So, I don't know how much they knew about the Adirondacks, but of course there's plenty of peaks that are over 4,000 feet. And on that day, they were flying about 4,500 feet. But probably the biggest mistake is that it was heavy clouds and they were easily 30 miles off course. So they really lost track where they're supposed to go. They ended up crashing very near the very peak, on Wright Peak, near the very top. All 4 crew members were killed instantly, and there was a tremendous amount of wreckage on the summit for years. Some of that was recovered, but a lot of it was left behind. Of course, this was like nearly 60 years ago that it happened, and over that time there's been a lot of hikers that have taken souvenirs. So there really isn't much debris left on the peak anymore. There is a memorial plaque. If I do make the peak today, I'll see if I can find the plaque and show that as part of the video. And actually I may as well start talking about Silas Wright now that I'm thinking of it. Silas Wright was actually born in Massachusetts, 1795. His father was a cobbler, repaired shoes, which wasn't really the greatest job, I guess, because when his father found out there was farmland in Vermont, he pulled up stakes and moved the entire family toward Vermont, very near Middlebury, which is the site of a college, by the way. So Silas went to the elementary school in that area, and he proved himself to be a very, very great student. At age 13, he actually completed all the requirements to be a school teacher. So he started teaching school from 13 to 15. And he was doing this while he was getting ready to enter college, Middlebury College, at age 15. Of course, he graduated very well, and afterwards, he decided to go into law practice. So from Middlebury, he went over to a place called Sandy Hill. It's now known as Hudson Falls. It's near Glen Falls, New York. And he worked for a couple of law firms there. Eventually, he was admitted to the New York State Bar. He was allowed to practice law, but he had to figure out a place to practice. He did not want to work for someone. So he traveled widely. And he actually traveled all the way to Canton, New York. And I looked it up, and that's about 175 miles. In those days, the roads were not very good. So you could not cut straight through the Adirondacks. You had to take the long way. I suspect he probably went north, followed the Champlain River Valley, maybe took a canal boat or so, and then traveled further up the St. Lawrence River, eventually coming to Canton, which also had like a college and was a up-and-coming community. St. Lawrence College is there and has been for a long time. So he opened his practice, and this was shortly after the War of 1812, it was around 1820 or so. The men in that day were still very nervous about the British, because Canada was not really Canada. It was still a British colony, and there were a certain level of British troops still maintained. And the Canadians, of course, were very nervous about the intention of the Americans. Were we going to invade their colony and take that over too, or what? So there was a local company of the men formed, and Silas was elected at a fairly young age to be the captain of his company. And the next year, that company merged with a few more companies. They formed a regiment, and Silas was promoted to I think a major or a colonel. The following year after that, the regiment merged with another few regiments, and they actually formed a brigade. And all the officers in the brigade elected him their general. So he became a brigadier general at about the age 27 or so. Like I said, he was also a lawyer, very successful lawyer. He was elected to the House of Representatives, that is, the federal representative. And he got to know Martin Van Buren, who would go on to become president of the United States. So he was a very big supporter of Van Buren, and very conservative. He was considered a Democrat, but like I said, he was conservative. So he was nominated, at least they wanted him, to either run for vice president, but he declined. And instead, he was nominated for governor of New York, and he won pretty easy. But it was a very difficult time in New York because of the what they call the plantations. Along the Hudson River Valley, there was a series of large estates that had been formed really from the Dutch colonial period. And these were essentially feudal estates where the landowner only rented or leased the land. And Rensselaer was a family that was among the original Dutch, which even in the 1830s, 1840s, still had these large land holdings, and they had hundreds of people that were only renting. Now, the lord of the manor at that time, and of course we don't like to use the word lord, but that's essentially what he was. The lord of the manor was Stephen Rensselaer, I believe the third. He was actually a very benevolent landlord, as much as they can go. He would lease the land at very favorable conditions for a lifetime, and favorable enough so that the farmers could actually improve their land and improve their lot. So these were not really, destitute or, serfs by any stretch. They had a real life, and a prosperous one at that too. The other thing, Stephen Rensselaer did two other things as well. If someone had trouble paying rent, he would give them credit or allow them to buy, do services or goods, things like that. Well, the thing is, I guess as he got older, he realized death was upon him and became very benevolent, and really had huge debts. The equivalent of about $9 million in rent had not been collected, which was a lot. So the tenants actually thought that they would not have to pay rent at all, that when Stephen passed away, all would be forgiven, and they would be basically free of paying rent. However, his contracts included a clause that if the owner of the land was to sell it, then they would owe 1/4 of the sale price to the landowner. So this made for a difficult time. So after Stephen passed away, like 1839, his heirs were determined to collect their rent, and they had agents, which were generally tarred and feathered by the farmers. And so then, of course, they complained to the local sheriff. The local sheriff, I guess one or two of them ended up getting killed, murdered really, right? Trying to either collect rent or evict people that were not paying rent. So after this, the sheriff, the sheriff that took his place, formed a large posse of men. So it wasn't just a couple men, it was a very large group. Problem is, there were even more farmers. The farmers numbered, they were organized, and there was probably 500 farmers. And they would actually dress up in costumes. They would dress up as what they called calico Indians. So the purpose of the costumes, of course, was to disguise themselves so that they could not be prosecuted. So, and that's pretty much where Silas Wright is elected governor of a state with that type of situation. So he was in favor of a law which basically made it illegal to dress up in costume. So that was not popular, and he was not reelected. Now, it was a stretchy section here. So he eventually retired from politics for the most part, even though they wanted him very much, because he really was a great political leader. Okay, so now we're getting to a technical section of the trail. You can see it's like all just a huge ice covering here. But to finish the story, Silas Wright retired to his farm in Canton. He had been a heavy drinker, and who wouldn't be in that type of situation? Because there's basically, this was called the anti-rent war of New York. It went on for years before it finally got calmed down. But like I said, he was out of office. He was just minding his farm, and he had a heart attack, and he died actually fairly young, only about 52. So kind of a sad end, but that's how life goes sometimes. So anyhow, that's Silas Wright, who this peak is named after. All right, now I'm going to concentrate on the trail. It is treacherous, and we'll see how far I can get, if I can get to the peak or not. All right, so now I'm at the first of two waterfalls here, and it's just covered with ice. Water is flowing. Maybe you can hear it in the background, but again, it's just a very nice day here. I did see one other person hiking. So peaceful, so little wind, and so I just hope everyone enjoys the little video here that I'm sharing. All right. Okay, so now I'm at the col between Algonquin and Wright Peak. This is where they have the toilet for people. They also, it's only 4/10 of a mile. They have the warning sign, actually the second warning sign about severe weather. I actually have 3 jackets with me. I'm kind of sweating right now. Also got extra socks, So I'm good to go. I'll use the poles. And again, I kind of realize this is, like I say, there's a fork in the trail. Behind me is the trail that I just came up, and then behind me now is the trail to Algonquin, and this other trail off to the other side is Wright Peak. They're both very steep from here on, and I've had some very icy sections that I've maneuvered safely, and I will continue to be vigilant. To me, this is a good enough milestone right here. I'm good for the day. But if I can get to the summit, it really is stunning. And I'm sure with the wind being as calm as it is, it will be a great opportunity for all. So I've just come up, and I'm now in the Alpine Zone. I'm about at least 4,200, maybe 4,300 feet here. And I can show some of the trails. Down there is Heart Lake. You can see it's mostly covered with ice. Heart Lake is where I started, and just behind there a little bit is a road. We've got Whiteface Mountain in the background, along with Lake Placid. Just scanning the horizon here, and again, this is down the trail that I just came up. Very, very steep. They've got markers now, just paint on the rock. Because this is an Alpine Zone, we're not supposed to walk on the vegetation. It's so fragile. But it's mostly rock here too, so that's why I've taken off my micro spikes, and I'm just on bare boots, which are usually fine. The winds are light. You can see Indian Pass there in the distant horizon, and then over here is Mount Algonquin. The trail kind of meanders up there. It's very steep. It goes up almost a mile high. It's about 5,100 feet. And then again, I've got quite the hike in front of me. The last few hundred feet of Wright Peak here. We have cairns, piles of rocks that people have put together to help mark the trail. That would be necessary if the visibility was poor. Fortunately, visibility is great today, and I can easily find my way on the rocks. Some of the rocks, you can even see scratch marks from people that had micro spikes or crampons. Personally, I don't feel that comfortable with micro spikes on rocks. They don't dig in like they do in ice, and actually I feel much better footing with just a regular boot. It's steep, but good footing. Lots of cairns to walk by. Of course, the air is thin, so besides all the work of climbing, I have to breathe more just because there's not as much oxygen, and I'm talking too, which doesn't make it that much easier either. So there's a lot of cairns. I'm gonna pause the camera here until I get closer to the summit. All right, so I finally made it to the very top of Wright Peak. Just over 4,500 feet. I think it's 4,527. Again, just nearly a perfect day, especially for April. Of course, there's lots of ice and snow around, but the peak itself is clear. Behind me, you can see Mount Marcy, the highest peak in the state, just over a mile. Just to the side is Mount Colden. Again, it's got all the slides on it. Mount Colden is exceptionally steep on this side. Those slides go down toward Avalanche Lake. We've got a few other peaks, which I'm not going to try to name, but again, these are all part of the Adirondack, the 46 high peaks. all together. Too many to really count right now. That's Mount Algonquin, which I think I showed earlier. And again, no benchmark. Some of the peaks, they put a brass marker in, actually in the stone, in the granite that we have here. But this peak, they don't. During the summertime, there's usually a ranger up here, a peak steward, to help police people, because there can be quite a lot of people here during the summer, and they walk on the fragile vegetation. So that's primarily why we have peak stewards. I'm going to see now if I can find that plaque that I mentioned for the P-47 that crashed back in 1962. I saw it years ago. It might be a little bit difficult to get to, but again, I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to take any undue risks. I don't want to ruin what's really pretty much a perfect day so far for hiking. Just another thing to draw to your attention, some of the vegetation that I talked. It's the trees are dwarfs here. The wind can be just totally brutal, easily hurricane winds on multiple days. So the trees are very short, and you can see they're just loaded with like ice and things that just kind of like freezes. Right now though, it's not that cold. It may be not quite above freezing, but it's not bad. So, all right, I'm gonna see if I can find that plaque. Okay, so I finally did find the plaque, and I'm gonna hold the camera up. It's in memory of Aircraft Commander First Lieutenant Rodney D. Bloomgreen, co-pilot First Lieutenant Melvin Spencer, navigator First Lieutenant Albert W. Kandinsky, observer A1C Kenneth R. Jensen, a Strategic Air Command B-47 crew killed here 16th of January 1962 while on a mission preserving the peace of our nation. And again, this is right on the side of Wright Peak, and there's actually some other wreckage is still here. So it's amazing, and I'm not going to disturb it. It's just pieces of metal, and like I say, it was a huge airplane that crashed here, a P-47, larger than a typical jetliner. But beautiful sight again. The sun's come out. It's just a great day in the mountains. So, and again, and so just in remembrance of our servicemen, some who gave their lives, but all who served our nation faithfully. Thank you. Okay, so I've made it. I'm back to the trail register. Going to be signing out the book. Here's the sign. Like I said, they don't even list Wright Peak on the thing. Here's the register and a pencil. Out. Another view of the map. We can see the Heart Lake, ADK Wilderness Campground, Whale Tail, and then the Wright Peak, 4,580 feet. Looks like the call, let's see, this is in meters, so about 1250, 1225 meters. Yeah, and then right now we're down to 660 meters. So 46 peaks. We got Wolf Jaw, Hedgehog, Upper Nipple Top, Dix Mountain, Mount Haystack, Little Haystack, Mount Marcy, Skylight, Redfield, Cliff, Calamity, Marshall, Boundary Peak, Iroquois, then Colden, Tabletop, Phelps, and there's a whole bunch more that I didn't even go over.